I'm super excited for this, Heather. I'm eager
Me
to hear
too.
your perspective about Southern Charm. What's your relationship to it?
My relationship to Southern Charmed, and I keep calling it Southern Charmed, so I apologize. Southern Charm and I go way back to 2014 when this show premiered, and I had gotten into Real Housewives a little bit. The more drama, the better. And Vanderpump Rules, I think, was out already, and I was all into the waitresses, having been one myself in this high scale restaurant bar and all the drama that they had intertwining all of their relationships. And so when Southern Charm came out, I was like, oh, I've never been to Charleston. These seem like lovely high class folks,
Upstanding
all
young Americans.
outstanding young Americans. Exactly. But it seemed like there was going to be a lot of drama going on and it dished it up. I didn't watch forever. This was the time where you couldn't fast forward through commercials, so I had to catch it
Me
when it was
too.
on television. I'm fairly certain. I don't think Netflix was out yet in 2014. So they served this up on a silver platter. And let me tell you, it was a win for me. It brought me right into the show and I was not disappointed. So it was one of my, what do they call those? Guilty pleasures back in the day.
Mm.
I used to love watching this.
Well,
What about you?
I hope that it's the same for you now. Yeah, mine is similar. I watched it when it first came out and was a fan, but I was already a Housewives bitch, right? So I was already very deeply ingrained in Bravo. So this just felt like the next step for me. So I never really paid much attention to it. There were certain points where I would get very deep into it and then back away. But it's been so long since I watched the first season. I'm so glad that we're actually talking about it for our next season of Pure Cringe. Welcome, everybody, by the way. Welcome to Pure Cringe Podcast, the podcast that takes you all the way back to the first seasons of some of our favorite Bravo shows. And this season, I think, to your point, Heather, I think that this is like drama served up by
Yes,
just some of the most poorly behaved and inebriated people that have ever graced Bravo. So that's why I think this is going to be super fun for us too. We're having cocktails. We're going to drink every time we cringe. So we should be obliterated in about 30 seconds.
yes, I'm actually super excited because the way that this show was served up, it was like, oh, look at these charming high class folks. And then I realized that everybody has two legs and walks and talks. And we all put our pants on the same way, first leg, second leg. And people just really aren't all that different,
Yeah, I mean,
no
I
matter
mean,
where you come from.
some of us love the smell of cocaine and some of us don't really. That's probably just the difference. Yeah, this is to your point. I think that's how it was built, right? It was just these are some of them. It even made it seem like these were society people, right? So
Absolutely.
socialites, and I think even at one point, someone, and maybe Craig, refers to himself as a socialite.
Yes, he does.
But I think when we peel back the curtain, even in this first episode, we dispel all of those assumptions right away, and we recognize that like most of these people are garbage humans. There are some really bright spots. I feel like Southern Charm is a show of extremes. I think the people who are really cool,
Yes.
and I think the people who are not cool are super cringy. And there
Yep.
aren't a lot of people, especially in the early season, the early first seasons. I don't think there are a lot of people who are in the gray area in between. I feel like most people are very polarizing, especially in this first episode. I already have all of my opinions. I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely. And
This
they don't,
episode is
let you
fun.
dip your toe into the water really. They just jump right in, which is what I'm going to do with my beautifully crafted cocktail that I have for myself. I'm just going to jump right in, take a sip.
Nice. Yeah. The episode is called Peter Pan Syndrome.
Yes.
And with the instead of SYND, it's SIN in quotations to underline the whole sinners kind of vibe. I will say, I wish this episode was as entertaining as the movie Sinners. Did you see that?
I haven't yet. It's coming out
Oh.
July 4th on Max or something like that. So Jeremy and I are waiting to watch it until it comes out to stream.
Heather Bombard. It is so good.
I can't wait.
It's
It's
so
on
good.
my
You're
list.
gonna love it. I spent the money to rent it. at my house and watched it 3 times before it was returned in 48 hours. It was just excellent. But yeah, they're trying to underline the fact that these people are sinners, but they really are doing it in a cute way. Right? They're mostly just saying these are party animals. I feel like everyone we meet in this first episode could have just walked out of a sorority or a fraternity, and I would not be surprised. If you told me that they all came from one or the other, I would say, all right, that makes sense. I could 100% see the women walking out of Delta Delta Delta, can I help you, help you, help you? Sorority.
And in some cases, the men a couple decades ago walked out of their fraternity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, I'm looking forward to this, and I know that you've done some amazing work on the opening sequence. So do you want to dive in and guide us through the opening? This is a really cool part, and I know that you've probably found all kinds of Easter eggs if I know you.
Well, so what was interesting to me is I started to watch this because you and I both take notes as we're watching, so we remember all of the highlights. And I found myself pausing it over and over again because it starts out with all of these beautiful scenes in Charleston, South Carolina, which is the backdrop for this amazing dramasode. Um, and
Beautiful.
so you're seeing beautiful parts of Charleston that make you want to go there. And they have folks talking over the beautiful scenery in the background. And I apologize, I didn't attribute each quote, but someone saying, we have our ways here in terms of being genteel in our customs. I'm fairly certain that was Thomas Ravenel, who we will talk about in depth. I think it was Whitney says there is a small, ruling, entrenched minority of very established old families in Charleston.
Yep.
Just speaking to the importance of who you are and where you're from and what your name is here, which will come up a lot. It is a playground for men who never want to grow up. I feel like all of these types of quotes are from Cameran, who we'll
Who we
meet
love.
soon.
She's our spirit animal, I feel like. She's the stand-in for all the women.
Yes. And then we have a voiceover saying a Southern gentleman should not curse, know how to dress properly, and be chivalrous. Which, to be honest, I'm not sure how much substance there is to any of those things, if that's what makes you a Southern gentleman. But okay, okay. Don't curse, know how to dress, and be chivalrous. Okay, I'm on to that. And then we have the typical Charleston guy has PPS, Peter Pan syndrome, to the 10th degree. Cam, again.
Sound bites from Cam are the best.
Yes. And then it ends with, I believe it was Whitney saying, here in Charleston, they'll say, oh, bless your heart. No problem. And then they'll just stab you in your back. And that's where the intro ends with
Welcome to
these.
Southern Charm.
Exactly. This is just setting you up for exactly what you're going to see next.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was the end of that intro, which was crazy. And then they jump directly into our first introduction of the episode to who is the oldest member of the cast, Thomas Ravenel. He, just for everybody's information, his birthday is August 11th, 1962.
oh wow. So
He is 52 years old in 2014. So he's 52 while this is filming. And he says that his family came to Charleston in the 1680s and have been a presence ever since. He lets us know that he lives in the South of Broad section of Charleston, which is one of the wealthiest neighborhoods per capita in Charleston as well as in the country. It cuts directly Whitney talking a little bit about Thomas,
talking some
saying
shit.
he's great at hitting on girls. And then he says he just has to point, have you seen the Arthur Ravenel Jr. Bridge? Who is Thomas's dad. So this is where we learn that Thomas's dad, Arthur Ravenel Jr., was a South Carolina congressman from 1987 to 1995. I may have looked that up. And Whitney speaks about Thomas. He says he's a libertarian, he's fiscally conservative, he's socially liberal. He was the state treasurer of South Carolina, and then he screwed it up You want to tell us how he screwed it up there, Maria?
Yeah, yeah, it seems appropriate. In 2007, he is indicted for conspiracy to distribute drugs, las drogas,
Los
cocaine.
drogas.
Specifically, he served 6 months and he had to resign from his position.
Yes, under his plea agreement, he had to resign.
Yeah,
And I actually paused the screen because they have his not mugshot, but a photo of him with a
they're so
newspaper front.
good.
And I paused it just because I thought it was very interesting that when he's explaining that in 2007 he was indicted for conspiracy to distribute drugs, he says it was under 100 grams of cocaine. But the article says under 500 grams of cocaine. I don't know
Ooh.
how he messed up that detail, but it sounds like it was over 100 grams.
It's scary.
Um,
He was the treasurer. Even more frightening. His math skills
yeah.
don't seem amazeballs.
So that's our introduction to Thomas. It did cut very quickly to him bragging about the sports he used to play in prison to a character who will be introduced us later, Danny, Shep's
Yes.
ex-girlfriend, Danny. So he's talking about all, and I don't remember all of the sports that he was saying.
Say
I don't know if he was trying.
bocce, softball.
Oh, that's
He
right.
had
He
his own
first learned.
he had his own softball team. He's a mess. He really is. He's like if Alex P. Keaton from Family Ties had a drug problem.
Yeah.
He's super cringy. I think we should drink on that.
Oh,
He's just, yeah.
cheers.
The
Yes.
fact that he's like
Cringe.
talking about bocce like it's learning it in prison, like it was a country club.
Well, one thing that comes out of that is that you really do see that he's not shying away from his past in that respect. And it'll come up more later on in the episode. He expects you to take him as he is.
Can I ask you about this?
Yeah.
I need to know your opinion about this because I just think something's off about him. Could his self-awareness really be this off? That he thinks that he has a political future. It feels like everywhere he turns, people are like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it cuts directly from him bragging about his time in federal prison to he's on a radio talk show
Right. Yeah.
and he's discussing his political future. And someone calls in and is like, listen, dude, did the crime, you got to sleep in the bed that you made.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he doesn't dismiss what they say. He just says that the past is the past and he thinks that he still has a political future. And I think this is going to tie back to what's so important to a lot of folks, not everyone, but the folks on this show who grew up in Charleston in these, what do they call them? Small, ruling, entrenched minority of very established old
Mm,
families. It's very dismissive of any wrongdoing. They still feel a bit entitled and deserving based on who they are, who their family was.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad you said that because for me, there's a big disconnect because I don't understand what part of him is where the chip is missing until later when he mentions that he's blessed. And I was like, holy shit. Now I realize what he's talking about. He's blessed to be who he is.
yes.
And this is where he quotes Admiral Farragut and he says, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead.
Mhm.
And this is, of course, also, too, where any woman with half a brain would be able to appropriately age, put him in the correct age bucket based on the quotes and based on the references he makes. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Shep is also very intelligent. So is Thomas. They're both very well educated
Yes, they're
guys.
all learned folks.
Yeah. And so there is a lot more of being able to have much more deep or maybe much more erudite conversations with these
Yeah.
guys. But someone who would quote Admiral Farragut and would say that, yeah, to me, I instantly thought to myself, this guy is older than me.
This is one of many reality TV shows that are being fed to us on the silver platter. But reality TV at this time was, in some cases, producing stars. And I think that, at least in Thomas's brain, people are going to watch this and be like, "Oh, this guy, he's so interesting, he's so smart, he's so sophisticated, he's so handsome," which I don't find him handsome at all, but to each their own. And I really think that he feels that being on this show is going to not propel him into stardom necessarily, but change people's views about him just being a criminal who enjoys cocaine. Like it's going to do something for him, I feel.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And the thing about Thomas, I think that we'll see, and what we noticed, I'm sure you just like I did in this first episode, which is he is consistently deluded. Like he is Delulu all the way through in an unwavering way, whether he is sober or drunk.
Yes.
Like his commitment to his own delusion is excellent. So we put a pin in Thomas, and then all
Goodbye,
of a
Thomas.
sudden we yes, goodbye, Thomas, we'll see you soon. And then all of a sudden we hear the Thursday surf report, and we recognize that things are going to be very, very different right now.
Yes, I like this like heading
Yeah,
straight to
yeah,
Shepherd Rose.
yes.
He was born in September 27th, 1980, which makes him 34 years old. He's in bed, the alarm's going off or the surf report's going off at 1:28 p.m. So that tells you a little bit about Shep,
His
which is
lifestyle.
how he will be known right now. And everything that they're showing. So you notice when Thomas was doing his sit down interview, it was him in his grand living room in front of the fireplace, and they showed the books in his beautiful
Yes.
home. Shep, who also is living in what looks like, I don't know, an apartment or in his mom's house. I'm not sure. It's a grand-ish looking brick estate type building. But they're showing on the screen sunglasses and surfboards and the surf reports going. He is from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, and he introduces us to his family as everybody else does at the beginning. He's from an old South Carolina family called the Boykin family. His family founded Boykin, South Carolina, so he has a town his family has a town named after them. He points out that the state dog is the Boykin Spaniel for South Carolina, and he says they're annoying, they're hyper, and they don't listen, which he then equates to himself. So he's what is it, self-effacing? What's it called? Where you can make fun of yourself?
Self-deprecating?
Yeah, self-deprecating. Thank you so much. He lets us know that he has a business degree from Vanderbilt.
Yes.
He does not have a 9 to 5 job. He says he's passionate about leisure. And I think the last thing that I mention about him is that he talks about how his brother's married and his sister has 2 kids. And essentially, that's not really for him. He doesn't want to settle down.
No, and I think Shep's teeth, they should have their own zip code. I don't know if those are veneers or crowns, but they are ginormous. And over the years, they seem to get bigger and bigger. But yeah, this is the interesting thing about Shep is that you can tell he's very intelligent and probably could have pretty much any career he wanted based on his own brains. He is just, if anybody there really has Peter Pan syndrome, I think it's him.
Yeah.
I
At
think
least when it comes to
working.
lifestyle.
Yeah,
Yeah. Career aspirations.
yeah.
Has none.
And it feels like he doesn't need to. And then Craig tells us that Shep's family is basically Southern royalty, but you couldn't tell it by looking at Shep,
No.
right?
Yes. We see a lot of him just doing goofy,
Yeah.
wild, funny things. Him in a tuxedo,
Oh, he
Speedo,
loves,
and
yeah, he loves to be in a Speedo.
going on a bull and falling off the bull ride thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy at the party. I think
He's
we
into
all,
fun.
yeah, yeah, he majored in fun probably in school.
Hmm.
And then we actually see, and this is again one of the nice things about Southern Charm, which is it's a real group of people that know each other.
Yes.
So I appreciate that, especially after Project Runway, which it was just a bunch of people who didn't quite know each other. So I didn't feel invested in relationships until towards the end. Whereas, for example, with New Jersey, I was invested right away because everybody was either related or really close friends. So here we see that there's a previous relationship between Shep and Cameron Eubanks.
Yes, Cameron Eubanks is our next contestant on Southern Charm. Her birthday is November 21st, 1983, which makes her 31 years old. So she's 3 years younger than Shep. She's from Anderson, South Carolina. She says her family's been in South Carolina for 10 generations, and she proclaims herself to be a modern Southern woman. And she's on the move in this intro because she's going to meet up with Shep for lunch. So she's studying for the real estate exam.
And just full on Margot, Lily Pulitzer.
Oh, yes, I loved that. I was like, that's Lily Pulitzer.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no.
Back
And
when Lily Pulitzer was only being worn by
like Cameron.
knew her or afford it, because now my mother lives on Cape Cod and she loves Lily Pulitzer and it's everywhere.
Oh
Like you can
yeah.
get Lily Pulitzer in
Target.
Marshalls
Yeah.
now. Whereas before, I think back in 2014, Lily Pulitzer, I don't know,
It's
maybe even,
exclusive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It felt a lot more exclusive. Yeah, Cameron, it's funny. She gives me designing women vibe. If you are younger than probably 45, you may have never heard of a show called Designing Women, which is about a group of women who own a design business in Atlanta, Georgia in the 80s. And the clothing was just fantastic. Like the statement necklaces. I felt like everybody had stepped off of Designing Women actually in this episode. Like all the women wear statement necklaces or statement
Mhm.
bracelets. The amount of chunky jewelry, it's like just a fuck you to demure down there. I thought that some of the stuff that Cameron wears is aging.
Yes,
She's gorgeous. And you can tell it's
beautiful. Yeah.
and not in a way where she wears a lot of makeup. Shep will allude to that in a second.
Yeah. They meet up for lunch. She meets up with Shep and they go to 82 Queen,
Hmm.
which has a lovely outdoor garden patio thing that they sit down. And I feel like it goes straight to them sitting at the table, and she's grilling Shep about his new girl that he's interested in and wooing. I'm going to call it wooing, MJ. And she asks him a couple questions, and she's, "Did you touch her boobs?"
Yeah, everything with Cameron, it really feels like we're in sixth grade.
No, and it's funny because Shep talks about her and he says Cam is one of the guys, which then he says, which is hard to believe because she's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just, we know he has this admiration for her. She's like, "Did you invite her over to watch a movie yet?"
I was thinking that too. I was like, oh, this is pre-Netflix and chill. And I
Yeah.
thought, when did that get invented?
And I don't know what order these quotes come in, but she says she's going to groom Shep into a very eligible bachelor. She predicts that he's going to be married in 2 years when he's 35. She asks him, "Do you really want to be 50 and sleeping with 20-year-olds? Like, do you really want to be one of these guys?" And I
He's
think
like,
hinting
yeah,
at Thomas. "Do
yes.
you really want to be 50 sleeping with 25-year-olds?" And I don't think he actually says yes, but the look on his face, he's like, "That doesn't sound bad."
He's like, is that possible? Do you think that's possible?
And she says, "I've been sent from the heavens to help all you turds." And this is where, again, you can tell that Cam, while her family may have been in South Carolina for 10 generations, she's just a different breed than I think most of these folks have interacted with. She truly is one of the boys in the sense that she's friends with these guys. I don't know how long she's known them, but she'll put it to you straight. She
She
has her
doesn't
own
judge.
personality and she doesn't really hold back. She's not going to be a Southern genteel woman and act proper. She's going to tell it like it is. And I loved her for that.
I think that's the vibe I think that we need
Hmm.
in this show. I think there has to be somebody like that. I feel like without Cam, spoiler, I think for me, Cam is like the linchpin. And I
Yes,
think without her on the show, you lose the moral compass.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the rest of them are like Jack the Ripper. I just think that she holds them accountable without judging them.
Hmm.
And I think they appreciate that. And I think that she cheers them on and supports them. And so she really does have these genuine friendships with these guys, it is actually nice to see. It's very different from the friendship that we're about to be introduced to with Whitney and another cast member. But the friendship that Cam and Shep has is 100% platonic and 100% genuine.
Yeah. And before we move off of her, I think also she's just outgoing, friendly,
Yes.
genuine in the sense that she targets an older gentleman who's in the garden. She just asks him very quickly, "Oh, are you married?" And he says, "Yep." She says, "Happily?" And he says, "Yes." And she's like, "Would you want to be single?" And he says, "Yes." She drags some random stranger into their conversation. Then that guy shuffles off, and it was a laugh for everybody. But she's trying, I think, to understand Shep. And as some of us try to generalize with people that we've known over the years, I think that she truly believes that he's like the rest of the folks that she knows. Like he's 33, I'm guessing at this point. His birthday must not have happened. She feels in 2 years she's going to get him to find a nice girl and settle down.
Yeah.
If that pans out, we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think she's really the person that for someone like Shep that he needs in his corner as a grounding.
Yeah, I bet there's going to be a lot of advice
Yeah.
from Cam to Shep
Yeah. Yes.
over this first season.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So then we leave 82 Queen and we go to some of the most beautiful shots, gorgeous shots of a driveway with these beautiful wrought iron gates that open to reveal a palatial mansion with pools and a garden. Um,
Hmm.
and this is where we meet Whitney Sudler Smith.
Yes, Whitney, who was born on June 2nd, 1968. So he is the second oldest cast member at 46 years old at time of filming. He tells us that his family settled in Virginia in 1640, making his ancestors the founding, well, some of the founding fathers of America, which that quote, hold on, I need to take a drink really quickly. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
refill this.
There's so much cringe in Southern Charm. We should probably have a lot of booze
I
near us.
winced at that because honestly, people resting on their families' laurels is seems to be a theme that's happening right now.
For this show, which is behold these children, these scions of the greatest and wealthiest families of the South. Behold. And I think that's what we were supposed to feel. But
Mm.
once we got a little bit of a look behind the curtain, it's impossible to think of them that way or to even care if any of their ancestors were involved in anything.
Exactly. And so he introduces himself as an artist, which I didn't. I have read a lot about Whitney, and I'm not going to get into it now because we are going to deep dive a character every show. So we will wait until it's Whitney's turn. But he does mention that he directed in 2010 a movie, which the first part of the title is Ultra Suede, and it opened to mixed reviews, which I think it pops up on the screen that it was a self-indulgent
Oh
film.
yeah. It was I love the balls to put your really bad review.
I loved it so much. And he's taking a break from his endeavors to clear his head, maybe open a restaurant, which they flash to his mother because he lives with his mom currently. So
Love her, Patsy.
he's playing electric guitar in his room, and his mother, Patricia Altschul, I hope I'm saying that right, who was born April 16th, 1941. She comes into his room as he's playing his electric guitar, apparently with an amp in
Yeah.
her house. I was like, who does this guy think he's living in mama's house and he's gonna be like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr."
He's been Lord Fauntleroy his whole fucking life. Do you know what I mean? He's been so indulged his whole life. Like to
Yes.
him, the idea of this is not weird.
Yeah, so we learn, I don't know if it comes up on the screen, that his mother is a widow, and so she and Robert, her personal chef, comes into Whitney's bedroom to chat with him. He says that his mother is a Southern belle. She's chic and she's his best friend. And I love this scene so much because essentially they're pointing out that there's a pile of clothes, makeup, etc. at the foot of his bed on the floor. She has a martini in her hand, and this is when I was trying to count the amount of drinks that we see in this. And then
You gave up
later
after
on, I
this.
was like,
Yeah.
forget it. You can't possibly know how many drinks are consumed in the filming of this show. But she's going through everything. She says that it's trashy, that there's this crap at the foot of his bed. People are just leaving their quote crap around. She thinks it's disrespectful. And she says that she's getting a little tired of the trail of women traipsing through her house. And she tells us what daughter-in-law material is for her. And she says, well educated, charming, and attractive. And I don't know why I wrote in parentheses here, walk upright. I don't know if she says that or.
What she said was, yeah, so she said originally she was applying that standard to the women who were coming over because she was
Oh,
looking
okay.
to see if they could be a match. Now, if they have the ability to walk upright, she's happy.
I love it so much.
And she's
Um,
great.
oh, you can
She
tell she's a
is,
character.
she really is. You have to fall in love with the scenes too, because when he's describing her, you see her on her chaise and just a butler, that dude, his name is Michael. So
Yes, we'll
she,
get introduced to him later, I'm
yeah.
sure. I have to go back really quickly because Robert, the personal chef in her, he's looking at the tags on the
Oh
clothes and he
God.
says, Ann Taylor. And they're both like, Ann Taylor. I
Yeah,
don't
to
know
them,
if
Ann
somebody
Taylor
says that, but
Marshalls.
they're disgusted by
Yeah.
Ann Taylor.
Yeah,
So,
they're
yeah.
horrified. Yeah, to them it's like something from the garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're talking about Whitney, who then says that he thinks he needs to get a stabbin' cabin in town.
Yeah.
So let's all drink to stabbin' cabin.
He's gross. Yep.
Oh, gross. I cringed hardcore that he would say this in front of his mother. Now, my mother still treats me like a child and refuses to believe that I'm the age that I am and that I'm my own independent woman. But if I were to say that in front of my mother, I think she would fall out of her chair. Whereas Patricia's just laughing it off.
Well,
And
because
then
of
she
course
asks
that's
him,
how he is, right?
yeah,
That's how Lord Fauntleroy is. There was at that point, as soon as that he said that, I had to pause it because I think I had to take the dog out. And I paused it coincidentally at a point where both Whitney and Robert were literally like covering their
ooh,
mouths, like in the weirdest kind of coy kind of way when he said stabbing cabin. And I thought, like, this whole scene, as weird as it felt to me, it felt genuine because he is so awkward. And you can tell because he's an only child that it's
oh,
just been
yeah,
him and his mom. I think the father died when he was young. He was older when the mother married her last husband who died. And so to him, I think he's just probably been in boarding schools. Like, I think he thinks he's funny. He hangs around with Thomas.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he hangs around with people who just go, yeah, oh, you, I
Although
don't think he realizes that he's a little gross
what's
himself.
interesting to me is that it will play out later. Whitney has standards, however, that he expects his friends to live up
Yes.
to as far as their behavior, things they say, etc.,
Yeah.
which makes it so interesting to me that he speaks so freely and so crudely about certain things when it's just him. but other people don't have that same liberty, and we'll talk
I
about
think
that later on in the episode. But I thought you were going to say when you paused it as a final nail in the coffin for Whitney, he has a hickey on his neck.
oh, he does. I
Don't know
didn't
if you
see
saw
it.
that,
No, I
but
didn't. I will go
he's got a
back.
big old hickey on the
Gross.
side of his neck.
He's a
Exactly. I was like,
46-year-old man. Is that what you said? Oh my God, gross.
who at that age, honestly, like,
That's
and
Catherine, because I think that we find out that she slept there, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe
we'll
it's, I can't remember if
see.
it's that
You're
or the
taking my theory. But yeah, honestly, it's just interesting to me. That tells me something because a woman of my age and a true lady never tells. I'm not sucking on someone's neck in a way that's going to give them hickeys. That's a very juvenile
100%.
thing to
Yeah,
do.
that you would do.
And that a preview into some of these gentlemen's lives gives you a bit of foreshadowing into the age and maturity of the women that they are pursuing and dating,
100%.
that he has a hickey on his neck.
100%. And
Oh,
yet,
yeah.
all through all of this, she just doesn't want him to move out. She loves him so much.
No, she says, "Are you going to come see me once in a while?" And he just dismisses her and he's like, "Of course." I mean, she is his best friend.
It's so
So there's
cute.
no
Yeah.
way that he's not going to come visit her. I'm so sorry to have started talking while you were talking. I'm going to pause and get another drink because I'm empty with all the cringe.
You need to get some more booze.
So
Go ahead.
quick pause. Do you mind?
Yes. No, I will pause.
Yeah, so this is the thing.
What is it?
It's called Owen's transfusion mix.
Okay.
It's
Grape juice and ginger ale.
grape juice and ginger ale, and it pairs
Wow.
with vodka and tequila, perfect for the course. So it's apparently being marketed to golf courses, and let me tell you, it's the first time I've ever seen it, and it is delicious. Sponsored by,
Clever. I wish, right? That's clever too, to have it all and then to let you know what it pairs well with.
yes, it's
That's a
delicious.
smash idea. That's very smash. Yeah, there is a lot of cringe coming up because, of course, I hate to say it, but even if it was just Whitney and Thomas Ravenel on this show, even if it was just the two of them, the cringe level would be off the fucking charts.
Oh, yes.
So that's why every time we bounce between the two of them, oh my God, I have a little bit of anxiety watching them both because we go back to Thomas's house, and this is when Will Folks, his consultant who trips on the way in the door, comes in.
I missed that. I didn't
Oh
even see
yeah,
it.
he trips right on the way inside the door. They explain libertarianism, which was interesting.
Yes, he's a libertarian and he says he's socially liberal, fiscally conservative, and he believes that the government should be limited and small and it should stay out of bedrooms and boardrooms, which made me mad a little bit given the current state of the country that he says that, but and I can't even describe why. I enjoy the fact that I'm going to believe that he means it should stay out of bedrooms in the sense that let people be who they want to be, love who they want to love, etc. But we'll find out later how Thomas Ravenel makes a living, and the fact that the government should stay out of boardrooms is something that Heather Bombard does not aspire to. No, thank you. The government, somebody should be in those boardrooms keeping people from doing terrible things to affect individuals who work in our country. It's interesting because Will Folks introduces the fact that Thomas's home used to be a bachelor pad with all sorts of interesting shenanigans, and it points to a nude painting on the
Yes.
wall. And but he just gets right down to it and he says, "Are you running for something or just having some fun?"
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting to me that what Thomas chooses to tell us here is that as a convicted felon, there's only three offices that he could run for,
Yep.
which is the US House of Representatives, the US Senate, Or, and then he gives us a wink, which kind of frightened the shit out of me, actually.
Cringe.
President of the United States. And I
Yes.
thought, this fucking guy is so delulu that he would even joke about this.
Yeah, and it's interesting because had he have known what was to come way back when in 2014, you could be a convicted felon and be president of the United States. I don't know how many convicted felons were president of the United States before then, but he did say he's looking to redeem himself. And
Yeah, yeah. I have conflicted feelings about this scene because I really do. This scene, like, it shuts me up because the idea that Will would, on camera, be like, yeah, you've got a stable of women, you've got all these women, just pick one and marry her.
yeah, he says people are
Yeah,
interested in his personal life.
yeah.
You have an army of women. Pick one. Just pick one and marry her.
Yeah, I just found it really upsetting for some reason, just the idea that this was a real conversation that they were both willing to have. And Thomas even brings it up later, but it's the idea that he would, and then I feel like then also to the setup next for him to start talking about Catherine.
Catherine Dennis, who is a
She's a
character we will
scion.
meet. She's born August 6th, 1991, which makes her 23 years old to his 52 years old. He says Catherine Dennis, she comes from an old South Carolina family. She's the scion of two families.
Mm,
And then he brings up two South Carolina families, important South Carolina families, which goes
Calhoun.
to the name. Yep,
Yep.
John C. Calhoun, he says, who was a vice president in the 1800s. And her grandfather, who he says pretty much ran the state of South Carolina, he was the chairman of the Financial Committee of South Carolina. And he says, yes, she's solid and beautiful. And then I think it was Will Folks who makes a joke. I love me a redhead.
Yeah,
I
he's
just
gross.
honestly,
Cringe on
the
that.
fact that
Yeah.
a political consultant is like, damn, I missed your parties back when this was a bachelor pad. And yes, cringe, cringe, quick cringe break. I have
Yeah.
new drinks. So
Guys are gross. These
that
guys
we'll
are.
see how many drinks I go through during this podcast, how many times I cringe. It's just, this honestly is a bit of a magnifying glass opening that window so we get to see a little bit of what running for public office and what being a political figure really means and what's involved in
Yeah.
that in the United States, which should make everybody want to throw up in their mouth a little bit. It's so gross.
Yeah. If anything, I admire Thomas's sort of work ethic around it, right? He's tireless. He's got a relentless drive. Even when it's pretty obvious that he should stop, I think he can't stop himself or he doesn't stop himself. He feels like it's going to happen because he's going to T-Rav.
And I have to say, this kind of goes to the what makes me hate it. And I don't I'm not saying that you respect that necessarily about him. I feel like he feels that he's almost entitled to it, considering who his father was, who was a congressman from
Yeah,
1987 to 1995. I really feel that he was bred to be in politics. Like, how did he become the state treasurer of South Carolina?
yeah,
There must have been potentially, he could have slipped up many times. I don't know how many times he was bailed out by his family or anything like that, but
good
to have
call. Yeah,
screwed it up in such a way,
yep.
he feels like, yeah, that's just a blip. That's a blip on the radar of the story of my life. I'm still destined to political greatness. And I feel that he
It's a great
feels he's
word.
entitled to that
I think he
because of
does
who
think
his
it's his
family is.
destiny. I think destiny is a great word choice there.
Yes,
I
he
think
feels
that
it's
he
his
believes that.
destiny.
I really do. I think that encapsulates so much of it, like the idea, the amount of faith that is involved with this for him. But
And
yeah,
I
I
think that he feels that this show maybe not propel him into stardom, but it's gonna be a little bit of a fun documentary of him getting back into his political career. Otherwise, why would we see him on a radio show talking about his political aspirations? Why would a scene be with your political consultant? He's trying to set himself up to do another run or hold a position. We're seeing a lot here by what just they're blatantly showing us their shortcomings, I feel. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
taking another drink because
No,
he aggravates me.
I think that Thomas, and you said this earlier too, he's so out there and he's
Hmm.
so just putting it out there. He's the exact opposite of the next person that we meet,
Oh,
who has a long distance relationship with the truth. And that is Craig Conover, who we
yes.
see waking up at his house.
Yes. He's born February 9th, 1989, which makes him 25 years old. The only person younger than him that we've heard about yet is
Catherine.
Catherine Dennis. He's the second oldest on this show. He's from Fenwick Island, Delaware, and he is in law school. We learn he tells us he's in law school, which it's so funny because his apartment, house, wherever it is that he's living, I feel like he has roommates throughout the show from what I can remember. I don't think it's his own place. But he said he moved to Charleston for college, and within the first week he was there, he fell in love and knew that he was meant to be here. And he works at a law firm. And so they cut over. He's getting ready to go to work. He goes to work. And it's interesting because his life, we will see, is very different
Yeah.
than a lot of the other gentlemen who are on this show. Like they're living a life of leisure, and he is trying to get through law school, and he's working at this law firm. So they show the cameras are in the law firm, and he gets called in by his boss. And the
Mm.
moment his boss, like in this open office area, is like,
Ah,
Craig, can
do you
I,
have a minute?
do you have a minute? He's like, am I in trouble? And I forget what his boss said. Not necessarily.
He's
And
basically saying, just get up, you fucking asshole.
yeah,
Just come
so
into
they
my
go into the
office.
conference room, and his boss essentially, who seems like, listen, Craig, you're doing a great job, but we just need you to make it here on time and maybe get some balance in your life. And makes a joke about maybe 3 out of 5 days I can make it here on time. And this is where so he's telling his boss his woes about how hard it is for him to make it to work because he's, listen,
My friends are partying. Yeah.
my friends, they start drinking at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and these parties go all night. And after work, I go party with them, and it's really hard to get up and get here to work every day
Yeah, it's a
because,
challenge.
these gentlemen don't have to do that. Which it's interesting because it's essentially, again, he is 25 years old and
Yeah.
he has stars in his eyes. The fox with the tongue lolling out and the hearts to in their eyes to the lives that Thomas and Whitney, who we've been introduced so far, are living. And he's parting with these guys, wishing that this was his life and trying to make that his life. Even Shep, who lives a life of leisure, he doesn't
Yes.
get out of bed until
1:30.
1:48, whatever time, 1:28 in the PM.
Yeah.
As somebody who enjoyed partying back in the day, yeah, it's hard to keep up with your responsibilities and do what you need to do. And I thought his boss was just too nice to him.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
what you thought, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it was funny because normally that's the way that I used to give people constructive feedback, remember, which was, hey, do you have a minute to talk?
Hmm.
So when the boss said that, I was like, oh, ruh-roh,
I've heard that before.
ruh-roh. I know I can name that tune in one note. And it's funny to me that Craig would whine to his boss about how hard it was for him to stop partying and come to work.
Yeah, it's
He's another one who's just, he's so deluded and he has these moments of maturity and then he's these other moments where I'm pretty sure he's in junior high.
mm,
And to your point, I think a lot of it has to do with his I don't love the word jealousy, but I do think that there's a massive amount of jealousy, especially with Shep, because I think like he looks at Whitney and Whitney is different. You know what I mean? Whitney is much older, different lifestyle. Same thing with Thomas, right? But Shep is more of a peer to
Yeah,
him. And the fact that
a
Shep,
decade.
yeah, Shep can do whatever he wants.
Mhm.
I think that really, I think it sets Craig off fundamentally. So it's interesting that he would be friends with him. It's like it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah, I look at him and I know that I've gone into situations that I don't deserve grace necessarily, and I'm looking for it immediately. It's like he wants to be at the stage that they are in their lives without having done anything to earn it. And he actually coins himself a socialite
Yes.
in this, which I think he's, again, talking about Delulu. I think he's a little deluded as to what stage of his life that he's in, what his responsibilities are and should be,
Yeah.
just by the way that I'm sure having a film crew coming into his place of work to film him because he's part of this society of Charleston, South Carolina, that's part of this reality show. I don't, I'm not saying necessarily because we haven't seen it borne out yet that he has a big head about it, but I think that he has himself 10 steps above where he really is in life.
Yes, that's an excellent read on the situation. I think that is exactly right. I have no notes to that statement. That is fuck yes, is how I would say that. To say fuck
Yeah.
yes. So once we are done listening to Craig, and really a lot of the way things he says are whining, we'll have to just get used to that. We
Mm.
just have to just concentrate on his face and just hope for the best. But then we move into party prep mode at Patricia's palace.
Party at Patricia's.
And we see the glasses go out, the food go out, the ice sculptures arrive, right? And then people start to show up.
Yes, JD, who we're introduced to. We don't learn much about him until a little bit later, but JD and his wife, Elizabeth, who you had to really strain to hear that it was his wife and her name is Elizabeth. Cameran and Catherine Dennis are the first guests to arrive at Whitney's.
Hmm.
And the best part, honestly, this made me laugh so hard, is they cut to pretty much everybody at this point trying to make an all booze punch. There's some, it looks like a recipe written down on a piece of paper that they flash really
It was
quickly and they're
weird.
having trouble reading, and it's just pouring full bottles of
Oh,
alcohol into this
I
punch
couldn't.
bowl. And they're talking about all the booze that's in it, and they pour a glass and they hand it to someone, and people start drinking it, and Shep makes a face like, ooh, like he just drank lemon juice. And a couple other people, they cut to this one girl. It's my favorite quote of the entire show. She
Yeah.
says, "It tastes like drunk."
Yes. Yes.
I loved it so much. I was
Yes.
like, I'm gonna use that one day.
Yeah, because I think it was Shep who said it tasted like Benadryl, and then she said it tasted like drunk. And
Like
then
drunk.
and then both Shep and Cam were like, we want beer.
And Shep says, I'm gonna go make a beer run. And Whitney objects. He's no,
No
no
carbs.
beer.
He has a
And then he
carb
tells
problem.
Kim, you shouldn't drink carbs. And then at least Cam and the lovely girl who was standing next to her, you can't say that. What is your problem? And Cam says, that essentially that Whitney may have a problem with carbs, but she's a big girl. And so I thought it was interesting that Shep said, I need to go make a beer run. There is no beer available to you. You drink our drunk drink or grape drink or whatever it was, and that's it. But at some point, I do see Shep hand Cam a beer. So somebody got over it.
Yes,
One other
yes.
thing, the last thing I'm going to say about this punch is that when Tom arrives, which happens a little bit later, and I see him drinking it, Whitney asks him, do you like it? And he's like, it's good.
It's because
Their taste
Tom,
buds are all dead.
I was gonna say, I'm like, his taste buds are completely dead. It's all the
Yeah.
Coke. All the Coke has murderized
Hmm.
his taste buds. I have to say, the whole thing, the whole punch thing felt like eighth grade. when you're just like throwing stuff in. And
Hmm.
this is when Cam starts to talk about like the traditional roles that like women still occupy
Yes.
in Southern culture. And then we meet Danny, Shep's ex, who was the person, of course, that Thomas was talking to about the sports in prison. And
Hmm.
she's pretty cool. We'll find out she's pretty cool. She's got a very level head, smart enough to dump Shep for sure. And then that's when Cam tells us that the girl to guy ratio in Charleston is pretty appalling.
Hmm.
It's
10
10 to
women.
1, 10 women to 1, which, that I don't love those odds. And so what she says, and of course another beautiful Cam soundbite, she says, so guys have a buffet of women at their disposal.
Absolutely. All these women vying for, because to your point, Cam said there's intense pressure to land a man,
Yep.
and the role of women is to get married and produce children.
Yep.
So, with that intense pressure, you're competing with nine other women for the one man based on that relate ratio. So it's a lot of pick me, choose me, look how pretty. And anytime they would pan the camera to that party, there's women dressed to the nines, makeup on fleek, to
Gorgeous.
use an
Yeah.
even older reference, just
Yeah,
looking
beautiful
amazing.
girls. Yeah.
But obviously, look at me, look at me. Ugh, I did not like that. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink really quickly.
No, and I get it. This is where Shep does some gross, weird, awkward flirting.
Mm.
And
With
then,
Andrea, Danny's
yeah,
friend.
just really, and we'll see him later too. He has no game. He just talks very strange shit. I remember guys like him from my 20s and 30s. I remember guys like that who were smart, but just didn't know how to talk to women at all, didn't know
Yep.
how to be normal. And after Thomas, Craig shows up
Yes. He
right
was in
after work.
court, which
Yeah.
is why he's late. Do you know what happens after he shows up? It made me laugh so hard.
My favorite was when Shep was like, if you have a job, I don't want to know about your work.
Yep. He only wants to hear about your job if you're a
Ugh,
professional athlete or a famous movie actor. Otherwise, he feels that shop talk or speaking about your job,
boring.
boring. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out later that Craig, like I said, he has a very loose relationship with the truth. So no matter what he said, he may have been in court, but he was probably just getting someone a coffee.
Yeah. He's talking about how you have to really enjoy this type of work, and he does. And at this point, they show folks milling around the party, and Whitney and Thomas are standing off to the side. And Whitney asks Thomas about Catherine Dennis. He says, "What's that chick's deal?" And here again, Thomas points out that she is a scion of two families with
The
South
exact same,
Carolina.
right? Doesn't he say the same thing or
Oh, I
nearly?
hate I'm like, what does that even mean? What are you talking about? But this is interesting because now Thomas starts describing Catherine Dennis, who will understand why we care about this person who's not a main character in the show yet. And he says that she is a South Carolina celebritante,
Mm,
that she was a page in the Senate, and her nickname was Senate Barbie. And they show this beautiful photo of Catherine in a green dress with her auburn hair leaned back in a chair. She's beautiful.
yeah.
And so Thomas starts talking to Catherine, and he asks her, "Where'd you get your beauty?" And she, of course, is like, I don't know." And
Uh,
sorry, I have
yeah.
to take a
Gross. Another
pause for a
drink.
cringe drink.
Fucking disgust.
Mm.
Yeah, he's just gross. Dirty old
He
bastard.
says he likes her hair,
Mm,
which is obviously like box dyed super red. And he's like,
yeah.
is your natural color auburn? She says, "Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to natural." And then he says, her hair and women. Ugh. And the last thing that I took from this scene was, I'm fairly certain it was Thomas. We get introduced very quickly to a lovely young lady who is dressed to the nines, standing off to the side on the porch. This seems to all be happening on a porch
Yeah.
of this estate, and she's a amateur tennis player.
Yes. So that was
And
so weird.
yeah, Thomas says, "I bet you have a sweet swing." And she says, I bet you do too. And she mentions very quickly that he plays polo. So she's done her research on this. I don't know how well they know each other. It seems like they're just meeting each other. But yeah, that was the last thing that I took away from that party. And it moves very quickly to the next scene. Did you catch anything else before we?
Yeah, I had forgotten. It's been a long time since I've seen this, so I only saw it when it first came out. I didn't see it again. It's not like I went back and rewatched it. So I was surprised the next morning to see my dad in his bathrobe making coffee for two.
Yeah, they really just they pull no punches with this
No,
next
they slap you
scene.
right in the face with his dick. It's really.
And Thomas is, yeah, making coffee. They show him filling up his little coffee pot. He says, a Southern gentleman always brings a lady coffee in the morning.
Cringe.
So he's carrying two coffee cups up. We enter what appears to be his bedroom, and there's a lady in his bed. Now,
Hmm.
this is for
That
all
ain't
of
no
us
lady.
watching this for the first time. Who's there, Maria?
It's
It's anybody's
Catherine.
guess, but it's
It's
Catherine.
Catherine in like his pajama top. He starts saying things like he normally doesn't like redheads.
Oh, yeah, in his voiceover. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but that his little head said yes because she's hot.
Ugh.
And
Oh, sorry, I have to drink again. I might
yeah,
not finish this episode. Hold on.
yeah, it's pretty gross. I'm so glad because I've forgotten how gross this section was that we go right into my favorite character here. All of a
Oh,
sudden, we
yeah.
see this super cool girl getting off private plane with super short hair, great clothes. Her name is Jenna King. What can you tell us about her, Heather?
Jenna King, born January 24th, 1985, which makes her 29 years old. And what's interesting, because I don't remember Jenna having watched multiple seasons of the show back from 2014 until whatever, but she is in the opening credits as a main character. Now, Catherine, who we just saw in bed with Thomas, is not on the opening
Hmm.
credits. She was not billed as a main character in the beginning for whatever reason. But so Jenna King, she's from Sumter, South Carolina. She tells us that she's lived in Miami. She's lived in New York. She's traveled all around Europe. And as she's describing this to us, we see a lot of pictures of her over time. She a short haircut when she comes off, like very similar to you. If y'all don't know Maria, like she's got spiked, not a mohawk necessarily, but she's got spiked shorter hair, shaved on the sides, and she's blonde in a bunch of the pictures. And she's just essentially saying that she never stays in one place too long. She gets bored very easily. She enjoys traveling and living in different places. And she's back to stay in Charleston until she gets bored again.
I love that for her, right? She and I have the same feather collar.
Oh, I didn't notice.
I have that in many colors, but yeah, I love Jenna. I remember the first time watching this, loving her style. And back then in 2014, was my hair short then? It must have been already. Because
When did you do your big chop, Maria? Do you
when I turned
remember?
like 40. So yeah, that would have been I would have had it short for a few years. So I probably was like really excited to see someone that reflected my own style preferences. Like when I see her clothes and everything, like I love everything she wears.
Yes.
Except for she's about to try on a pair of incredibly short shorts. But
Well, it's so interesting because she comes off, and this will only become important later. She comes off the jet in like a leather sleeveless, like
mm,
not a bustier, like a top,
yeah, with like a
and
peplum.
it's like brown and black maybe.
Yeah.
And so they go from her describing herself coming off the jet, and she goes and she picks up Whitney in her beginner Bentley, or no,
Mercedes.
beginner Mercedes. Sorry, she said it was
Yep.
actually her second. Whitney called it a
He's so
beginner Mercedes.
he's so pretentious.
And she lets us know that she and Whitney met in LA, or Whitney lets us know he's traveled a lot and lived all over. So they're simpatico in that way. And she picks up Whitney and they go shopping. Now she's shopping. He's like her girlfriend who's there to
He's probably fun to shop with, I would think.
Yeah. And so she's picking out, they're in a crazy store that has maybe styles that Cameran in her Lily Pulitzer or Catherine may not wear. And they go shopping. Yeah, she picks out those short jean shorts, which, ugh, one of the, I laughed out loud, but she's in the dressing room trying on these short shorts and they're like the shredded bottom and
Ugh.
there's an especially long string and she,
Yeah, she says it's like a tampon string. Yeah, it
mm,
wasn't cute. Yeah, it was not. I like their relationship. Whitney says he likes Jenna because she's different from other women in Charleston. She's not like that
yeah.
typical, like Lily Pulitzer wearing person. So I think that is another little relationship here, I think is another great, genuine relationship between people, which I think, and again, I don't really remember what happens on the season, but I think that the more I know that people are connected in a real way, the more invested I am in it, like right out of the gate.
And I think it's interesting because Jenna and him seem to go not way back. I don't know how far back you can go with somebody who is 29 years old
Not so
when
far
you're
back.
46. I don't know how long they've known each other. But did you notice that there wasn't really any conversation between the two of them? There has been with the other characters in the other scenes. Like Kim and Shep are sitting down and she's talking about whether or not he's going to settle down. He's saying, I'm just a free bird. I want to fly. And everybody else is having these deep conversations. They're just shopping. He's in the dressing room while she's getting changed. There's no conversation that's shown between the two of them. Just a note that I
I
made.
think I have insight into that, but spoiler because it's
Okay, well, we're not going to talk about it
yeah, but
because
I think there's a reason
maybe.
why Jenna isn't a lot of Jenna talking about her life.
No, not at all, except that
So,
she loves to
I,
travel and she gets bored
yeah,
if she stays in the same place. But yeah, there's no, I did like the fact though that she wasn't like, and my family's from here and whatever. You can tell like that doesn't mean anything to her. She's
which is
not playing
interesting.
the
Yeah.
game that the rest of the folks in this are playing. She doesn't introduce that, doesn't mean anything to her identity. That's not how she self-identifies
Yep.
as to who her family is, how long they've been in a place and how important they are. She's just her. Yeah,
You can't help but just relate or connect to the authenticity of it, right? Like,
absolutely.
which is again why I really liked her. So no, we don't get enough of Jenna. Justice for Jenna. Then so we are ripped away from her beautiful haircut, and we are thrown right into I don't know if it's Surmet's or Surmay.
I called it Sermons
Oh, maybe it's
because
like
it
Kermit's.
isn't. I'm sure it isn't. But yeah, this is JD's restaurant, who
I'm willing
we
to
met
believe.
superficially back at Whitney's party for the first time. And Thomas tells us that he met JD in 2001. He's his best friend. He was a bachelor, a ladies' man back in the day, but he met his wife and settled down. And now they have, I think
Four
they showed
kids.
4 kids like right in a row. Let me tell you, just the fact that Thomas is going to call anybody a ladies' man, it harkened me back to or Will Folks and who I thought was gross, just the way he
Yeah.
was talking. And I was like, ugh, am I going to hate JD? But they have a conversation. They discussed a polo match at first. I lost count of the drinks already, but I think at one point he's like,
Oh,
you want a drink? And JD jokes that it can be 11 o'clock in Charleston. Yeah, sure. Let's have a
well, because
drink.
he's the poster boy for cirrhosis.
And they start talking about marriage.
Yep.
Thomas talks to JD about relationships, and JD talks to Thomas about finance advice. Thomas lays on him that his political consultant feels like it's time for him to pick a girl and settle down and get married. And liked JD's advice here. What I wrote down the second time watching it through is Thomas makes a comment, something along the lines of he needs to get himself a wife was like a snapshot for a political advertisement. And
So gross.
JD really, he says a couple things. He says, I think it's important that your goals are aligned. He says that Thomas said that, of Catherine, that she's young. but comes from a nice family. And he was like, it sounds like you're saying that she's in the young, I forget the exact terminology that he used, like she's in a young way or wherever else. So you really have to think, are your goals aligned when it comes to that? So it was just like a quick, Thomas is seeking advice on what his political consultant says and thinks he needs to choose a lady.
Yeah, I hope that this was something that was just done for the camera. You're shaking of the head while you're drinking. I agree, because the idea that he would even have this whole conversation, right? The idea that he would have to bring like his JD on his way from an AA meeting to the bar and have this conversation with him. And then when JD says, you choose the wrong woman, you don't get elected, you choose the right woman, you could be the next president.
I'm hoping that Jonathan just trapped JD in his restaurant, his place of business, and was like, "Hey, I want to have this conversation with you. Let's get some glasses of wine." I did like the fact that JD mentioned that your wife is your life partner,
Yeah,
and the fact that he knows like your goals need to be aligned in order for this to be a successful thing. Because I think he feels he's married, his wife Elizabeth, they have a successful life together. He's no longer a ladies' man. He's, I hope, a committed husband. So I don't know, but yeah, it just all seems to me so gross, the amount of conversations that Thomas is having
yeah.
behind the back of a woman that he's obviously sleeping with.
That's the thing. He's talking about her. He makes the comparison earlier that he doesn't want to pick out a woman like he's picking out a croissant at a bakery. But in
Hmm.
fact, I think that's the fuck exactly what he's doing. I
Yeah.
think the more because he's like shopping it around, don't you think? He's socializing the idea.
What
And
do
so
you
I
think?
think so the more this is going on, the more he's trying to reinforce. It's like a confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
He wants this, so he's going to look for people who are going to echo the sentiment. Yeah.
JD doesn't seem to be two thumbs upping this, but
No, but he also isn't two thumbs downing it. So I think that's the tough part with people like Thomas. I don't think they get the subtlety. Yeah, I think that what Thomas needs to hear is no or yes. I think that people like that, for them, the idea of that gray area is tough. I think
yeah.
it's hard for them to navigate. And so I think part of the problem with, I think, the relationships, and we see it even in this episode, I think Whitney is one of the few people who is willing to actually confront him, but only to a certain point, right?
Yeah. And it just really felt one of those side quest type scenes where, okay, JD is Thomas's best friend. He's going to be a tangential, like a character that pops up every once in a while. Let's have a reason to introduce him. Oh, Thomas, we're going to film you at JD's bar and you're going to do this thing. So it ends fairly quickly
Yep.
for a hour-long TV show, and they skip straight to the rooftop bar and restaurant where Cam and Leva, her friend, are already. Jenna meets Whitney on the street, says, sorry, I'm late. And they go up to the rooftop bar to meet with Cam and Leva, who we find out that Cam says Charleston is a small town. She went to high school with Jenna.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought? So they talk a little bit about, I think Cam says that Jenna, if she had to describe her back in the day, would be alternative, which was hilarious to me because I'm sure she just means like she dressed differently and her hair was different and she was an
But we used to say
alternative.
that in high school, you'd have been like, oh, so and so's alternative.
Yeah. And this again is where I tried to count drinks and I just couldn't do it. We learned that Leva is Cam's friend who will see her in the next scene anyway. We find out because Cameron passed the real estate exam for South
Whoop, whoop.
Carolina. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And she says that her next step is to sell a house. And
Mhm.
she pretty pointedly says to Whitney to sell you a house. And she's commenting in the background. I don't know when it happens, but I'm a girl. I don't have a trust fund. This is where she's really situating herself as the non-modern Southern woman. Like she's going to set herself up to have her own career. She's not going to rely on a gentleman. She needs to sell Whitney a house. And he brings back that terrible, hold on, let me get my drink ready. She needs my stabbing cabin.
I can't with the cabin of the stabbing.
Mm-mm. It's
I
just
just,
so gross. And it's funny. We can talk at the end about how right now it seems like, ha ha ha, he's so funny, whatever. But he doesn't allow his friends to be as, I'm sorry, disgusting as he is.
he thinks
Good,
he's
his
funny.
friends.
He thinks
It's
he's really
not
funny.
funny. To bring the same joke in twice, you're on camera, dude. People aren't laughing along with you at home, at least not now. Maybe in 2014, I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah.
he thinks he's funny. He really does. He thinks that he's the soul of wit. And I think that he thinks that when other people do it, they're crass. And then they talk about whether or not Thomas would get a tattoo in prison, and he said it would be a tramp stamp of the bridge.
And this is the interesting thing because this is where we see Whitney turn on camera. And again, I'm beginning not to like Whitney that much. I seem to like his mother so far,
Yeah.
but they talk about whether they're all going to Thomas's polo match, and they say I think only 4% of the population watches polo.
Yes.
He
Yes.
says it's
Yep.
way less. And then I don't know who, I think Whitney brings it up, like we need to find him a woman, a self-respecting girl
Yeah.
at the polo match. And somebody says something about how we have to find somebody who's not from Charleston. He says we have to find somebody who doesn't mind that he's a convicted felon. And
Right.
it's so interesting to
He
me that
loves doing
someone
it
who
too.
is your
Yeah.
friend
Yeah. He loves it.
behind their back, you're just gonna put them down. And yes, like he's just not a nice person.
No, this is not someone you want as a friend. And you can tell without saying too much that he's trying to manipulate a lot of what's happening
Yeah.
and
So
trying to
yeah,
make things happen.
they
Yeah.
talk about the polo match and then we go straight to Thomas's plantation, which is called Brookland. And he talks about, I think at that, no, sorry. Yes, so they're getting things ready
Yes,
for
for
the
the
polo
match.
match that's taking place at his plantation, which we'll learn later. He spent $1 million to do the field and that he makes his money through real estate development. So he bought this plantation. He's been revamping it. Somebody mentioned earlier in the episode that he was redoing the barn. The barn is built. But before we get there, they show it, they're putting everything together, but then we cut to Cameron's friend Leva's apartment, house, whatever it is. So it's Cameran, Leva, and Ebony, their friend, and they're getting ready to go to the polo match, which apparently is like getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. They all have to find the right dress and hat to put on
Yeah.
and wear.
Yeah, that
And this
whole
is,
thing is wild. It's to me. And not to cut you off, I did want to
no, please,
mention that Thomas talks about how he found Polo after
after, yes.
prison. And this is another sort of shout out to shit older guys say, because he says it gave him a raison d'etre, a reason to be. Like no guy at that point, like now in his 60s, but no guy under 40 would ever. It's so rare that someone would talk like that in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I thought also, so they find their right dresses, they find their right hats. Then they go out onto the porch. They each have a drink. So I did mark those down. And they're all like, okay, we're going to have a great time. But then Cameron says that Thomas is an
Yeah.
acquaintance that she's had over the years. And she says, in Charleston, where your last name means a lot, it means everything in Charlestown, that Thomas has soiled his family's name. And it's interesting because she says she thinks he's gotten a bit of a bad rap. Like she seems very empathetic to
Yes.
his plight. But it's so interesting as the modern Southern woman that it just Whitney being so crass in she has to not mind that he's a convicted felon. You may feel that you're a bit above these standards. You're doing something that's a bit above the
Yeah.
grain, but you're judging and speaking of the same things that folks who may not be as enlightened as you're trying to point yourself out to be would say, because he soiled his family. Like she's explaining it like, oh, I'm empathetic to this, and oh, it's such a shame, but he did bad. And she's still holding him a bit. I don't know how much she believes it, but she's pointing out on national television about the
Yeah.
fact that through everybody else's standards, he's
Well,
bad
if your
news.
name matters when things are good, it matters when things are bad.
True.
Yeah. It's hard to wrap your brain around it. But yeah, while they're out there in their outfits, and I have to say, I don't think any of the girls looked particularly cute. I didn't love anybody's
Back in
hat.
2014, though.
Ooh, still did not love. When they arrived to Polo, it's so funny to me when the three girls get out of their car, which is a Lexus convertible. They get out of the car and they're all wearing these flower dresses or these sundresses, and they all have on the same like nude strappy sandals.
Which is
Almost.
hilarious because I'm fairly certain, as we learned from Pretty Woman, that in polo matches, after the match is done, you go out into the field and you tamp down the divots that have been caused by the horses. So you literally go out into the field and you find a patch of grass. When people make a shot in golf and they take a divot out of the course, you pick up that divot, you put it back into the field and you tamp it down with your shoe. So these people are all wearing like these strappy sandals, then they have to go walk on a poop filled place and put anyway.
What a
But
horror
yes,
show.
but
And she says it's the place that you are seen, that you have to see and be seen,
yes.
which makes sense, right? Right after that, Shep arrives wearing a green master's blazer,
Hmm.
just the strangest color. He comes in with a pal who I don't think we actually meet.
No, we don't get his
Um,
name.
and then the match begins, and we see Whitney arriving wearing a white blazer and a black Thin Lizzy t-shirt underneath it. He has a minute where he fat shames JD, and they talk
I
about him.
hated that so much because
Yeah, they talk
JD,
about, yeah,
looking at him on that horse, like he's not a rotund man
he's not
the
huge,
way that
yeah,
he's speaking about it. But yeah, he's like, oh, that poor horse and his joints. I think he's going to collapse under his weight. He's just
yeah.
not a nice guy. He
No, I mean,
needs to
yeah.
feel better by cutting down other people.
100%, yes. And I think the only thing interesting that he says at the polo game is when he talks about how he is interested in the fact that with polo, you could be a,
Player owner, yeah.
and you can play because he keeps saying, imagine if you owned the Washington Redskins, you could just be the quarterback. He like, and Craig arrives wearing like a bright pink polo shirt, echoing, can't stop talking about it.
You can see the stars that he has in his eyes for Thomas and Thomas's lifestyle and pretty much everything that he aspires to be Thomas.
Oh, yeah. He actually says Thomas has a fun lifestyle. Whitney lets them know that he has invited Jenna, and they're all like, ooh, he has a mohawk, and just acting like they just got out of prison for a couple of seconds. And then there's more polo until Jenna shows up wearing the aforementioned leather top from the airplane, right?
The same outfit.
Yeah, it was probably filmed in the
What?
same day.
No.
No?
It, if you were to believe the timeline of events, unless she flew back in or the shopping scene happens afterwards. Like that's what she's wearing when she gets off her private jet. So it's either a couple days later or she left post film
And then
and
came
came
back.
back and she's straight off the private
Well, she
jet
only has a
to,
couple of cool outfits.
you know what? That could very well be it. I just thought it was like, ugh. But
I
yeah,
know, but
so
I love that leather top. And
it's
then
lovely. She looks great.
that's when Craig tells us that they're all scoping out Jenna and they're watching the other guy. He's watching the other guys react to her. And they have that sort of unwritten rule that like they're letting her choose. It seems like a novel idea, Heather, that she would be able to choose whom she speaks to.
Yes, when there's a new girl, whoever she shows interest in, you let them have a full swing at it,
Imagine
is his quote.
how
And
gross it
so it's
is.
very obvious. that Shep's winning this competition because he's engaging her.
Sure.
Although in the weirdest way, like Shep
Yeah.
has no game. Because let me tell you,
So
he was like, "This
awkward.
is your polo match. This is all about you." He's just heaping on the compliments. And is he drunk? Well, he's just giving her these weird compliments that if somebody started like overtly complimenting me or showing me adoration in that way, I would immediately get turned off because it's like whatever he can say to keep her interested type thing.
That's, yeah, it's very graspy, like,
Hmm.
So then they all assemble in the living room, right, to wait for dinner after the match.
Yes.
And
And
it's going to be sausages and skirt steak, which instantly made me hungry thinking about it.
yes, sausages and skirt.
Love it, love it. And then T Rav says that he likes to entertain and that he always was hiring a caterer. And I was thinking about it. Do you like to entertain?
I love to entertain, but I'm at the stage of my life where back in my 20s, early 30s, mainly 20s, like you could hold parties all the time and people would always consistently show up. Then you reach a point in your life, late 20s, early 30s usually is when it happens when people settle down and they have children and they can't just drop everything and hang out at your house for the weekend. So it's forever since we entertain. Like we usually hold Thanksgiving at our house for anybody who wants to come, they're welcome. But I love having people over and holding parties. Obviously, I don't have a caterer to do it with. I don't have catering money.
I know.
Sorry.
Wouldn't it be beautiful too?
Yeah.
That'd be beautiful. But yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that he does enjoy it. I think that's cool. They go to grab food and he rings the dinner bell.
Mhm.
And then T-Rav says he has a few words to say to those fine folks. He thanks them for their presence at the table, and he asks them all to raise their glasses to Polo. And then Craig asks how many horses he has. He says he has 10. And then Cameron asks this Gone with the Wind question, which sort of sets off a bunch of crazy shit. She said, "Who is a better match for Thomas, excuse me, Scarlett or Melanie?" And
Yep.
then, so did you watch Gone with the Wind? I've never seen it myself.
I don't think I've ever seen it either. So I was on the struggle bus when it came to this one. And they pretty
Yeah.
much explain that Scarlett is the like multiple husbands
Yes.
where her desires take her, whereas Melanie is the reliable and Thomas is essentially being crass and saying
Yeah.
it, penis up,
Yeah. Makes them hard.
Melanie
Yeah.
penis down. So Thomas is a Scarlet girl guy all the way. And then Thomas asks, "Who do you prefer, Rhett or Ashley?" And then people let folks know who everybody is, and he declares that he's a Rhett. Yeah.
Well, the fact that he also says Ashley Wilkes types, aka nice people, go to the bottom when things escalate.
Yes.
And that people like himself, the Rhett types, go to the top, right? Like the
Yep.
cream rises.
That's
And then that's when Shep says to Jenna out of nowhere, this because he has no fucking game, that he loves avocado and so maybe he should move to California. And so she says, "What for me?" I feel like I, everything that we talk about in terms of Thomas's behavior or the way that he's very black or white, he is very polarizing. I think even with people, that's why I don't think that he has a huge circle of friends. Out of the people that are there, it's basically JD and Whitney and Shep that are his friends. Craig is like a hanger-on a little bit. It's interesting to me that it ends with Jenna shutting him down, but him not even recognizing it.
no. And this is what goes back to the fact that folks start drinking so early in the day. So it's dark outside
Yeah,
now. And
they've been drinking all
a-
day.
as you were saying, Shep was like, "I like avocados. I'm gonna move to California." And she's looking at him like, "With me?"
You're like, no,
And
no, bitch. Nope.
she makes it very clear that she is not picking up what he is putting down and that he says something along the lines of, you need to look elsewhere. And she's like, "No,
You need to look
you need
elsewhere.
to look elsewhere." She's just not interested in him that way. And she cuts out to her talking about he's not going to win her over in that way. She's not interested.
Yeah, I love when she says that what Shep is not getting right now is that she's not playing hard to get. She's just not interested.
Exactly.
But he doesn't get it. So then Cameron says that she had a conversation with her mom about how she knows Thomas. And this is what brings up the question around, she's delicately saying, she asks if he feels that there's a negative perception of him in Charleston. And he
Yeah.
almost seems like blissfully unaware. He's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me. He says he didn't have a problem with cocaine. He just really liked the smell.
Yes. Which Whitney
Yeah,
has a
Whitney has
severe
a, yeah,
problem with. And
yeah,
before we move on to Whitney's reaction to that, I have to
yeah,
say, Cameron's just putting her foot in her mouth. As a guest, like, we get it. She's a
yeah,
modern Southern woman. When we talk about manners and being a guest in someone's house in any location, you don't just skirt around I was talking to my mom about you, and she's concerned about the fact that you and I are friends.
yeah,
And she's wondering how I met you and if I'm like one of your stable girls or whatever else
yeah,
is happening there. And essentially, my mom has a negative perception of you if we read between the lines.
exactly.
How do you feel about that? And it's funny because people's faces around the table were like, Cam, where are you going with this question? Like,
It was an
stop
odd
opening your
choice.
mouth and inserting your foot. Take it out and just back away. But he handles it, I think, very, very well, which goes to show like the grace that he answered that caller's question on the radio show way back in the beginning. Like, I'm sure this isn't the first he's had somebody
Oh,
who's a
no.
stranger or a
Yeah,
friend be
sure.
like, hey,
Yes,
Thomas,
you're
like,
probably
how
very
do you
right
answer
there.
to this? And he's a humor guy, which Whitney is like, you can't make these jokes in the cutaway. You can't make these jokes if you want to run for office.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think a bit. Like, if he's serious about running for office, you can't cancel the fact that you did that, but you should be, as someone who's holding public office, you should not want to do something illegal. And it should have been a mistake on your part,
Mm,
not
gotcha.
just part of your persona.
Past.
Because
Gotcha.
cocaine isn't being legalized, as far as I know. If he was caught
No,
with a trunk full of weed, like
a bit
maybe be
different.
like, okay, everybody, weed is not a big deal. But cocaine, the amount that he obviously had, that he was just had to hand out to his friends, if we're going to believe that, it is something that you should atone for, I guess. And so making jokes about it, I think that was his way of dealing with his discomfort. Her
Diffusing the
question
situation. Yeah, that's how he diffused it.
at the same time,
Sure.
and again, it's late in the day. I'm not going to hold, I thought it was funny when he said it. I'm not going to lie. Whitney has a point, although
If
Whitney's
we were
not
at
the
the
best
party,
character.
yeah, if we were at the party and it wasn't being filmed, we'd probably laugh.
Absolutely. You can make those jokes in private. You can't make them on camera.
But that's the thing, and that's why Whitney says if he wants to resuscitate his political career, he can't make jokes about cocaine, period.
No.
And then Thomas, who's obliterated, suggests skinny dipping. So we have a whole scene where he tries to get the women to take off their clothes, but they don't.
No, thankfully, he's pretty much the only person that takes his clothes off, and he doesn't
Yeah.
even, I don't think, fully, which is good because
No,
I didn't need to
no,
see that.
no. This is where Whitney asked Thomas if he has a minute to talk. Just like me and just like the boss with Craig, right? And
Nothing
that
like a final closing scene to the episode of a heart-to-heart feedback
with two
session
friends, right?
with two friends.
Yeah, they sit in the living room and Whitney says, if you are serious, like you said, about getting back in the political game, into politics, you need to disavow your Playboy past and you should be more serious.
Yes.
And that's where Thomas, who again who's drunk, is like, are you saying I should affect a more humble persona?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, listen, you're a good friend, and I'll take what you're saying because I know you're doing it from a place of love, but I can't be a hypocrite.
Yes.
And so Whitney doesn't want people to think that Thomas Ravenel is still this party boy, right? Like still doing coke, still a liability, like still
Yeah.
untrustworthy,
He
you
essentially
know?
said that his Playboy past is what brought him down.
Yes. No lie. None of that is lie
Nope.
or exaggeration. That's when Thomas says, though, he doesn't understand Whitney because he says that Whitney wears crazy clothes, throws crazy parties, but is actually conservative. And I don't think it's that Whitney is conservative. I think that Whitney is trying to look out for his friend.
Right. I think that he thinks that he's judging him in that way
Yes.
because he's very conservative, whereas you can say he's conservative with what the actions that he thinks Thomas needs
Yes.
to take. He needs to act more conservatively. He needs to get more serious, no more Coke jokes. And he says, when it comes to the girls, you look like an asshole.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he's really trying to give it to him straight. And I thought it was funny that Thomas is like, look at this guy, crazy clothes, crazy parties, and he's
Yeah.
conservative. And then Thomas is like, fuck public perception, which if you want to hold public office, then you can't fuck public perception.
What? Even you and I understand that, and we have not been elected to public office. How can you, A, think that, B, have the lack of judgment to say that on camera? It's just,
Mhm. I think
it's
at this
cuckoo
point,
bunnies. He's so drunk, though.
everybody's too drunk to,
Yeah.
although I don't think that Thomas would shy away from suggesting that people go skinny dipping if he was that drunk or not. I think that's part of who he is.
Oh,
But
yeah.
and then to close the whole thing out, he starts quoting Macbeth over and incorrectly.
So, Heather, this line, to thine own self be true, is from Hamlet.
Oh,
It is
sorry. You know what is
not.
funny is that,
He says Macbeth. That's how drunk
yes,
he is.
sorry, I wrote
He
down
says
Macbeth
Macbeth.
and then in parentheses Hamlet, which brings you back to Clueless. You remember that great scene
Yes.
in Clueless? I love that so much. But
This
anyway, yeah.
so this the to thine own self be true scene is Polonius, who is like a courtier in the royal household, sending his son Laertes off to college. And he's basically giving him advice. He's neither a borrower nor a lender be, right? To thine own self be true. All of these things he's telling him as like advice from a father to a son. And so and he keeps saying it over and over again because I think Thomas hides behind these platitudes that he thinks serve him and serve his perspective.
I'm
But
sure it impresses those young ladies.
yeah, it made me crazy when he kept mentioning Macbeth. So, friends that are listening, it is 100% Hamlet. This is what I went to school for, trust and belief, Maria.
And go watch Clueless because it's even funnier.
Yes. Or actually read Hamlet, which would be
You could do that
amazeballs.
too. Yes.
So Thomas is so drunk, he keeps misquoting. And then Whitney says Macbeth wouldn't be elected today.
Yep.
And then Thomas says, well, then I won't be elected. And scene.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
the
actually
end of the
wrote
episode.
I wrote true dat, true dat. We are really excited to have some new categories
Mm-hmm.
for you guys that we are going to. Before we do though, Heather, anything you want to say about this episode or do you want to just jump right in?
I'm ready for them categories. What about you?
I feel the same way. So let's start with a little bit of a layover from our Project Runway days. So our
Yes.
fashion favorite, I'll start, give you a second to think about it. So I really loved Jenna's whole look. So I loved the leather top and I loved her sort of chunky jewelry, the big chain and then the big nail on a hinge. And I just love that whole vibe from her. How about you?
Yeah, I really liked Jenna's whole style. But honestly, the only look that was one that I could remember, and I feel like it was meant to be a statement, look at me type look, is the one that betted Thomas Ravenel. And not that I liked it. that much. It's not my style. But Catherine's whole like tropical vibe, bare midriff, like tanky top, crop top thing with whatever skirt that she had on that she wore to Whitney's party, she was definitely dressed differently than the rest of the young ladies who were there, like the tennis pro who was in an all white. Like everybody was dressed very sophisticated, very looking to bet a man, like to find a future husband. And she was like, look at me, folks, I'm different. And so that one stood out to me the most.
Yeah, I call that look in my mind the neon mermaid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
she was
fits.
very
Yeah.
Ariel, very Ariel.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So number two, our second category is a new one. This is wish we were there. So these are places or events that after watching the episode, we wished we were there. And so for me, I'm going to say the lunch at
82 Queens.
82 Queens with Shep and with Cameron. I think
I
it'd be fun.
I did really, really like that. I don't, so what's interesting is that they went to so many different places. Like, I wish that I had been wherever Jenna was when she got off the plane. But I think mine was tied. So the runner-up was Whitney's party. Like, I would love to be at that estate. I want to chase
Yeah.
that punch. I want to hang out with those folks. I'm
Yeah.
fairly certain there's a pool on that property, which didn't show up in
Yes,
this episode, but it's going to show up in other episodes.
for sure.
But I think I would have liked to have been at the polo match. Like, I would love to have
Ah,
somebody invite me to a polo match so I can like I would be so excited to watch a polo match and then be invited to a dinner in their private house. I just thought that minus the skinny dipping and the awkward conversations, like I would have loved to have gone to that polo match.
oh, very cool, Heather. That's a very cool read on that. Yeah, I agree. We'll have to figure out where we can go see a polo match, and maybe if we
Mm.
do go down to Charleston,
Just cut it out. We're
maybe
going.
maybe we can find a little polo match for us to watch and share about.
Totally.
All right, and number three, this we're calling Spotlight, where each episode we are going to shine a spotlight on one of the characters in the show. And we really felt like the place to start was with maybe a character that was woven throughout the show, but we didn't really meet yet. And the character is Charleston herself.
Yes.
So, Heather, if you wouldn't mind, share with us what you found about Charleston's history and past and present that we need to know.
Yes, I'm going to try to boil this down as quickly as possible. Charleston, South Carolina. It's the most populous city in South Carolina. It's on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. It's about halfway down the coast of South Carolina because South Carolina has a coastline on the Atlantic. And Charleston, South Carolina is in Charleston Harbor, which is essentially a harbor that is where three rivers converge: the Ashley River, the Cooper River, and the Wando River. And it's the county seat of Charleston County. So what's interesting is that it's founded in 1670. It was an English colony. Sorry, it was chartered in 1783 and it was named after King Charles II of England. Its most significant part of US history is its really significant actions or responsibility or whatever you want to call it in the Atlantic slave trade. So almost half of the enslaved people that arrived to the United States arrived in Charleston. But in 2018, only however many hundred of years later, the city formally apologized for their part in the Atlantic slave trade. It at some point must have been the capital of South Carolina. Now the capital of South Carolina is Columbia, but their economy is based on tourism. Their port is one of the busiest in the country. Aerospace, they have a lot of aerospace organizations, companies, industry there. Boeing is based
Mm.
there, and the tech industry is really big there. It's known for its architecture, its historic landmarks. It has a big culinary scene, a music, arts scene. What I thought was very interesting is it is famous or known for its Gullah heritage, and I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, but apparently Gullah population, it's a subgroup of African Americans who were enslaved here in the United States. They developed their own language. It's based off the Creole language. And so the people and their language is called Geechee, Geechee. And what's interesting is that at one point, I think over 75% of the population of Charleston, South Carolina was enslaved folks.
Wow.
So they lived their own isolated lives. They didn't have a lot of interaction with other folks, which is why this large population developed their own Geechee language that they're known for. Today, the population, and today meaning 2020, population is 72% white, 17% black, 4.3% Latino, 2.1% Asian, and less than 0.20% Native American. The Gullah community, it's really interesting. Their Geechee dances, which they apparently did like on the docks and things like that to music, is what inspired the Charleston. And there was a 1920s dance craze before the Charleston became a dance craze called Ballin' the Jack, which comes from Charleston, South Carolina, and the Gullah community. History is interesting. So the the climate wasn't conducive to tobacco, which a lot like Virginia, I think, and other places along the coast there was big into tobacco. So they instead learned how to cultivate rice, indigo, and cotton, which are all very back in the day meant most of the folks who tended to those crops were enslaved people. It also has the most Revolutionary War battles than any other colony in the United States, which was
Hmm.
very interesting. It was the first state to secede from the Union in 1860, and the Civil War actually began with an attack on Fort Sumter, which is outside of Charleston. It was readmitted to the Union in 1868 after that big
Yeah,
kerfuffle.
that whole thing. Yeah. Just and a long apology.
But Charleston actually sustained significant damage during the Civil War. And so the Reconstruction brought a lot of rebuilding, but also a lot of social change. The Charleston hospital strike in 1969 was a very significant event during the civil rights movement. The architectural style down there, it's a blend of a lot of styles. And I'm going to say them really quickly, but Georgian, Federal, Greek Revival, Gothic Revival, Victorian, Italianate,
Italianate. Yeah.
thank you, and Art Deco. And it's also very famous, Charleston, for a Charleston single house, which I would love to see if we do end up going down there,
Yes.
which is a specific type of architecture that kind of maximizes airflow because of the climate down there. One of the more famous neighborhoods is Rainbow Row,
Mm.
which at the beginning of the intro, it's a bunch of vibrantly painted pastel homes. It's an area, it also has a historic district, and much like the New England counterparts here, there are some cobblestone streets still left. In Charleston, pineapple is a symbol of hospitality. We'll
Mm.
talk what pineapple means other places elsewhere.
Hmm.
Um, some of the first in Charleston, it has the first public college, the first museum, the first playhouse, and the first golf club in the United States. The
Nice.
golf club was in 1787. Let's see what else I have. It's famous for their beaches and their sunsets, and in many places cited as famous for their Southern charm, which I thought was adorable
Oh,
considering.
and their
Um,
open carry law.
I don't know why I left that out, But there are some interesting things. It has a Spoleto Film Festival, which started in 1977, which was supposed to rival some film festival that took art and film festival that took place in Italy that's very famous. So it's a 17-day art festival. It's not a film festival, sorry. It's a Spoleto festival, 17-day art festival, which may be where Whitney got his art inspiration from. They have the historical Charleston Foundation holds a festival of houses and gardens with an antique show. It has a big culinary scene. So there's a food and wine festival every year. They have their own fashion week and their own taste
Nice.
of Charleston. So it's just so interesting. There's so much, but it's really known for its tourism more than anything else. People flock there to go to all these events. And because it has those museums and the historical aspect, as well as big, vibrant culinary and art area, it just sounds like such an interesting place to go to.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Savannah, which is one of my favorite cities in the US. And it reminds me of a smaller version, maybe, of Savannah. And I think that Charleston is a cool place to set a reality show because it's a place of excess and privilege. It's in the DNA. So even if we had a completely different group of people, I think it's only a matter of time before Charleston gets its hooks in you. Cool. Awesome. Great spotlight, Heather. Very
Oh,
nice.
thank
Very
you so
nice.
much.
And so let's move on to our last category, which is we will share what we feel like is for us the most cringeworthy moment
Oh,
of the episode. And I will say, I could have had 10 and ranked them 1 to 10.
I
There were
know.
so many moments where I would wince or I would look at the TV through my fingers because a lot of the things that people said were just gross. But I would have to say, especially because I love it so much, to have him like misquote Shakespeare just like Thomas, why don't you just get a fork and stick it right in my eyeball? It was so hard for me. So for me, my most cringeworthy moment is Thomas misquoting and misappropriating Hamlet.
I don't blame you about that one because he really is in a I don't care what anybody thinks. And I'm showing everyone how smart I am and how
Yeah.
cultured I am and what I know, but he really is not. I'm trying to think. So I really hated a lot about this. I think there's so much that made me feel extra gross. Honest, I think the thing that made me feel the most gross, like I was mad at Whitney for how he talks about his quote unquote friends. Thought it was gross the way that everybody talked about Catherine, almost like she was a piece of meat, how good her
Yes.
breeding is
Yes.
and how
Her
beautiful. It's
stock.
like they're talking about a horse
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that my grossest moment was the fact that they had to put in at all Thomas making a Southern gentleman
Oh.
always brings a woman
Ooh.
coffee in the morning. And the fact that you're like, what's going on? Does he have a wife? Does he have a girlfriend that he's with or whatever? And then the fact that he comes into the bedroom and it's her, and then he asks her, "Did you get any sleep?" I threw up in my mouth because I was like, here's this girl that hey, what'd you do to get your beauty? And I like your hair. And that he's talking to people about how important her family is and that she was Senate Barbie and all that other stuff. And then just to be like, hey, here she is. Here she is in bed. And that's honestly the moment where I was like, we're the first episode in, and these people
I
have
know.
have already forgotten that they're on camera. And then I was like, no, because if they wake up in the morning, then the camera crew, they weren't there all night. This isn't
No,
Big Brother. They
no.
came in and set up, and then they were like, okay, here's what I'm going to show. And she asked him, she's like, how long have you been up? Because it seems like she's totally taken aback by
Yeah,
the fact that he's bringing coffee into the room with cameras.
right.
She's like, how long have you been up? And he's about 10 minutes before you. You know what? Somebody had to let that camera crew in.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Ugh, it made me
and
gross.
and great call because again, that harkens back to why would he do that if he really wanted to run? Like if he really thinks he's going to run. Yeah, no, it was that was crazy. That was super cringy.
But
Even hearing you talk about it makes me want to change my vote, but that was it was very cringy. It was fun. I thought the episode was fun, but full of cringe.
yes, and I
Full of
can't
cringe.
wait for
Yeah.
episode 2 of season 1 because
We're
it's just going to get better if my memory means anything.
Yes, and I think that the cringe factor, we're going to earn our cringe stripes.
Oh,
So, friends, before we go, if you enjoy the show, please don't hesitate to rate, review, and share the content. Please fire up your Peacock subscriptions, save Southern Charm to your stuff, and join us on what is going to be an incredibly rocky road for the next few episodes.
I can't
While we
wait.
get through this, we're going to learn a lot of stuff. We're going to have a blast. Heather, anything you want to leave us with before we go?
No, just thanks for listening, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what shenanigans folks get up into next. And it looks like it gets pretty messy.
Yes, it's going to get gross and we're going to go through it together. We'll be there for each other,
Yes,
right?
thank you,
We'll
Maria, for
we'll
being
have
here for me.
and thank you. We'll have cocktails and we'll
Yes.
always have pure cringe. Heather, thanks for joining me for this one. This was a good time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.